All right, welcome back. So, the next step in this smart reading process, not just speed reading, not just bragging rights, but instinctual knowledge going into your head. This sounds counterintuitive to what I've said, but it's not. If you read between the lines, you'll understand what I mean. It's not about how many books you read per se, although volume of books is helpful. But I'd much rather meet somebody that says, Ty, I want you to invest in my business. I say, why should I? You say, well, in the last 10 years, I've read the best 150 books of all time over and over and over again, to the point where I've nearly memorized those 10 most important books about health, wealth, love, and happiness, or those 150 books most relevant to the business. Or I meet some person that says, oh, Ty, I read a book every day. I read, Twilight vampire stories, and I read this. I want a person who's focused on the right books. So it's not only volume of books, although volume is important. If you only read 2 books over and over, I believe that won't give you the breadth of knowledge that you need. You need to be eclectic enough. And I believe, and I've chosen this 150 as the number, not based on my own gut feeling, but based on what we know about the human brain. Now, I've adapted it a little bit and had poetic license, but the original science behind 150 is from Robin Dunbar, who was a sociologist, social scientist, and he basically said the human mind can have about 150 relationships in an optimal setting. That's what the mind, or I should say, that's what our brains are adapted for. Not to say on Facebook you might have 3,000 friends, but if you think about it in a social setting, 150 friends, you also need to keep track of how each of their friends. So 150 friends is more like keeping track of 10,000 webs of 10,000 points in a web of relationships. Now, books, obviously, you don't need to keep track of how one book relates to the other, but I think 150 is a good number. That gives you, if you divide up the books you read, and these are nonfiction books, you could read some, if you like some entertainment, that's okay too, but 150 books, mostly nonfiction, a few fiction, key fiction books, that you compile a list, okay? Now, you can use my list to start, but over time, you can adapt your own. So, should be above this video, depending on where you're watching it, my list of, 100, 150 most important books that I think everybody should have on their bookshelf and read over and over and over again. So, the nice thing about 150, if you divide those books into like 4 categories, okay? Books on health. So, that gives you about 30, 40 books on health. You got to know your own body. 30 or 40 books, and those are books you read over and over and over again. 30 or 40 books you're going to read about finances and wealth and business and your career. 30 or 40 there. 30 or 40 books on social relationships, on love. Remember, I was reading Good Science by this Princeton economist and Nobel Prize winning researcher Daniel Kahneman, and he said, if you have money but you're lonely, the money will not make you happy. So I just saw the movie Foxcatcher with Channing Tatum and Steve Carell, and it's a true story based on a true story of the DuPont family, John DuPont. It's a tragic story. I won't give away what happens in the movie in case you see it, but you see there a man at one point in the movie, Steve Carell plays him very well, might get an Academy Award. He said, I only had one friend growing up, and then I found out that my mom had paid him to be my friend. So as a lonely man, turned into mental illness, even though he had helicopters flying him around the world in mansions and all the money he wanted. So you need to read 30 or 40 books on the most cutting edge and some old school knowledge of books, okay? I'm sorry, of social life. And lastly, books on happiness. So those can be books on the intangibles, the character traits that it takes. Books on courage, like Kontiki. The happiness hypothesis, the science of happiness, fulfillment. Because you need those 4 things. These are the only 4 you really need. You get these 4 right, and of course they're pretty broad, but they're not as broad as you think. then you can add in other books, but 150 books. Now, there's good precedent for this among amazing people doing big things. I found it interesting in this book about Jeff Bezos and how he built Amazon that he would walk around with a tattered copy of Sam Walton's book, Made in America. He had a notepad and written it all up and read it over and over to the point where, what did we say about Dalai Lama? That it became instinctual. The business characteristics that had helped Sam Walton build Walmart and build a personal net worth of $160 billion, $160,000 million Sam Walton had. That Jeff Bezos was humble enough to get a $5 book, his autobiography or Sam Walton's autobiography, and read it over and over. There's a clear precedent for that. I've read the Will Durant books over and over since I was about, I think, 16 or so years old. So for you, the lesson, what I'm talking about now in the next component in smart reading, it's not just volume. It's repetitive reading. And the way to think about it, or the way I think about it is, what would you rather have? A life where you have 150 friends, business partners, acquaintances, allies, personal trainers, right? And you go deep with them. Like, you know, you've invested in their life and they've invested in yours. And I just had a friend have a heart attack and I saw his Facebook wall, you know, people following up and caring about him. And I know that makes him feel good and helps him recover. So for you, the same relationship must be created with books. We talked about it earlier in the other component, FOMO, fear of missing out. If you have the mindset that you're going to just read a book once and then put it on the, you know, give it to someone else or never pick it up again, then yes, fear of missing out by doing the smart reading techniques that I've been teaching will be an issue, because you'll go, well, I missed the, you know, I'm reading the, what's this? Well, The Way to Wealth by Benjamin Franklin. I only got one golden nugget and then I put it down, and what about all the other 10 nuggets? But think about your friend. You meet somebody for the first time. You have a spark of you know, commonality. You see them and, man, this is somebody I like. Think how you do it then. You know, one of my best friends I ever met, Herman. I met him in North Carolina. We were at a party with a mutual friend, Begonia Caballero. I remember her name. And it was her birthday party, and we met, and they were playing board games or something at this party, and me and Herman ended up on the same team, and we started winning because we both, I forget what the game was, we were both good at it, and it was like, this guy reminds me of myself. So then I remember being in the kitchen, and we were talking a little bit, and then I don't even think I got his phone number or followed up, but we were just like, hey, it was good to meet you. And I left. A couple months later, I was trying to get in the nightclub business, and I was at this salsa club, forget the name of it, and he walked in, and I walked up to him, and I said, hey, man, you're a guy from the birthday? Yeah. So we slowly built a friendship. The first time I met him at Begonia's house, I didn't bombard and go, give me every piece of nugget that you ever have. What's your name? You know, this is a smart guy. He's got a PhD, one of the top neurobiologists in the world, neuroscientist, published in, you know, Cell magazine, all this big Nature, all that kind of stuff. But for him, it was a process over time. So I want you to think of these very important books, these 150 books, as allies and friends that you will build a long-term relationship. You will go deep, not shallow. And in doing that, you don't have to worry about FOMO. When I met Herman the first time, I didn't have to go, oh, I got to get every piece of info because I'll never see him again. No. Over time, you get to know them better and better and better and better again. Alexander the Great conquered the world. He had his library of books, and they didn't have ease of access to books. And he was personally mentored from 14 to 16 and a half when he was a teenager by Aristotle. And he kept Aristotle's books. Of course, he had them in person. But he listened to them over and over and over. And that's, again, going back to what the Dalai Lama said. That allows you to have level 3. These things then become instinctual. You don't want to be just book smart. You want to have your instincts change. So that when life comes and it's hard, your snap decisions in business, about your health, about trusting somebody or not trusting another person in a social setting, when you feel depressed, that you want to know how to deal with these in the moment, you will have developed you will have developed instinctual skill by having put in the time step by step, slowly over time. So, what I want you to do here, we got more we're talking about, we're just getting going here, okay? Below this, to close this video out and unlock the next one in this smart reading system, and we're going to talk more about some real how-to stuff, routines and things. I want you to put a video in the comment below here. I want you to answer, what are some of the books, now like I said, you can use my 150 to get you started. What are some books you think should be on your top 150? List 5 or 10, because remember, my list is not set in stone. You can make your own. You'll have different tastes and different needs than I have. So make a dynamic list. What's your 150? Now, you don't need to write all 150, but write out the top 5 or 10 that you're going to go deep with from today till the day you leave this earth. What are those ones you want to commit a real friendship with? So like Jeff Bezos, their knowledge, experience, and wisdom becomes instinctual for you. All right? Put that below. Answer that. And the second question, very interesting, Warren Buffett says, every time you add something to a list, you got to subtract one. What are examples of some books? And I'll give you mine in a second. Some books that did not help you get the good life, that you need to subtract from your list. You need to give away to the library or give to somebody else. I'll tell you mine. From experiments, Stephen King books. Now, that's not to disparage the quality of his writing. For you, your list might be different. But I always have weird dreams when I read Stephen King. And I wake up and I don't feel refreshed because I was tossing and turning. They're not like scary dreams. I just have bizarre dreams. So put a list of some books on your bookshelf that you don't want to invest in for the long term, that need to be removed. Okay? So answer those 2. And I will see you on the next video. Remember, answering those will unlock the next ones.